Hey everybody, so welcome back. We're going to go over a couple tips on how to start carving your block of plaster. Hopefully you've taken it out. Just use a knife, cut off the cardboard box. Mine is over here, and I'll be throwing that away once I'm done here. I also have with me my research. So I looked up a few different, more organic looking architectural examples for my inspiration. And with me, I also have my clay maquette that I made. Now, the clay maquette is important to have in front of you so that you can understand how it's going to proportionally be able to exist within this block. So you're limited to this material here. So I wouldn't want to necessarily just carve it straight. I might want to put it more on an angle so I can get that long sweeping line. I can use the width of my block. The other important thing is you might want to draw each side. So if you position your maquette on the side of your block, you can look at the top and then draw the area in which is going to stay positive, so it'll actually be your block. Now for some people this gets very confusing visually. You might want to just go ahead and start playing around with your block. I have a few tools. I have a flathead screwdriver. If you didn't pick up the chisel set, these are a couple chisel, they're dirty and well used chisels, but that you can get at Harbor Freight for about $5-6 a chisel set, which is really nice. Because you've got some variety to work with. I have a clay set here of some carving tools. These are the ones that I used when working on my clay piece. Now be careful, the clay is very dry and it's very fragile, so you just want to be careful and cautious about that. I also have a rasp, which is really fun to use on plaster. I've got the rubber mallet, I've got a wooden mallet, and I have some drywall sandpaper. The drywall sandpaper you won't use until maybe day 3 or 4 of carving. But it works really awesome in softening, rounding edges and keeping things smooth. Now, some of you might want to go ahead and clean up your block. I am not one of those people. I want to just start practicing with my tools. So if I even start with this flathead screwdriver, it's really long, so it's hard to get in the frame of the video. So I'm going to use just a small chisel, which is very similar. A chisel just has more of a beveled edge. And I'm going to start with the wooden. This is a lightweight wooden mallet, so that's going to take off less material. You could even use something as easy as a scraper to come in and scrape off edges and do some cool texturing with your plaster piece. So don't be afraid to experiment. Your piece may not look exactly like your maquette in the end, and that's okay. This is really a starting point and an exercise to think about combining forms. So have that close by. Before you start carving, you're going to want to cut a couple pieces of cardboard for your piece to sit on. This is going to absorb some of that impact as you're hammering and carving away. So I'm going to just cut a few I'm just going to cut 2 actually for this little tiny piece that we're working on. And of course, put your blade back in. Your plaster piece goes right on the cardboard. So now that's going to absorb a little bit more of the impact of carving. I got to be careful here. So now I'm going to pick up my chisel and play around. Important information, you need to make sure that you have your safety goggles. So go ahead and put those on. I'm wearing gloves. This is powdery, messy material. I put some paper down so that'll make it easier for me to clean in the end. And I'm just going to start up here with playing around with some of the tools. And I'm going on an angle. You don't want to go straight down. That'll get your piece stuck and it won't get you very far. So you want to make sure that you're making a nice diagonal movement and going slow. You don't want to hack off too much at one time. With carving, just like the soap carving, you want to make your way all around. So when I look at my piece here and I see all this space is gone, so I'm going to have to be removing a huge portion of my plaster block in order to get that actual shape to be in there. So I'm going to have to be removing a huge portion of this. If this is my highest peak, so that would be my highest peak, maybe here, maybe I'll drop it down a little bit lower, then I can really visualize that this whole section's got to come off. This goes on an angle, leaving me a small space right here. So this negative space is also, this whole corner is going to come off. So similar to the soap where you start pounding out and removing big pieces, that's what you're going to be doing here with your plaster form. So make sure that when you hold your chisel, you're looking out for your hands and you're hitting that end point. You don't want to miss and hurt a thumb or anything like that. You can also use a standard hammer when you're going. So once you start taking away big pieces, I'm a little worried about my camera going flying here. You know, you can see that the material is going to go in the direction of your chisel. So I'm going this way and the material's falling off here. So make sure nobody's working right across from you. And you can see it creates an amazing texture, and that might be something that inspires you as you start working on your design. Like I said, you can use these, another scraper, those work really well. You can even use your clay tool. If your piece is wet enough and you have a little tool like this, you can actually come in and remove a lot of material here. And this might feel more controlled to you. It's a little bit more work for your fingers and your wrist, and you probably wouldn't want to pound out a corner that way, but it is a great thing to come in and play around with how you could use it. I might want to use it for my design here where I have a slight raised edge. So once I carve that down, I might want to come in and actually do that in a controlled manner with something like my loop tool. The other thing I wanted to make sure that you have is this drywall sandpaper, which you would want to cut. And I forgot my scissors out here in my space. And this will not work while it's wet. So while it's wet, it's just going to get all smushed in there. So you're going to want to wait till your piece starts to get a little bit more porous to use any kind of sandpaper or drywall. So I'm going to get working here and I'll show you my update in a little bit.